Hey everybody, it's Emily, the Crazy Worm Lady. I'm here today for the Worm Bin Basics episode 2. This is opening up your cocoons or your worms and adding them to your worm bin. So yes, I packaged up my own cocoons just for sake of demonstration. So if you order from me, it's going to come in a flat rate box like this. And when you open it up, you're going to have some bedding just holding the bag. This is a burlap bag in place. There's a business card. This is fully compostable, and then just a little bit of an information card for you guys. So the nice thing is that most of these items can be thrown right into the bin and composted. So the first thing that I want to do here is open up our cocoons. I have a pair of scissors here, but this entire burlap bag can go straight into the bin. And what's nice about that is you won't miss any of the cocoons. And this also has some of the starter bedding that these worms will do well in as they hatch, because it's familiar, it's got some microbes built up in it. And that's exactly what the system needs in order to run efficiently. But if you were to receive worms, same situation, you don't need to take them, separate them from the bedding that they're shipped in. They absolutely should be put in with that bedding, because that is going to benefit the worms as far as helping getting the system up and running. So let's take the lid off here. We're going to add our cocoons and we will get ready to try to start hatching them. Okay, so this is the inside of our system now, and we have our newspaper covering, and you can see it's nice and damp. And there's actually some mold growth over here, which is from those coffee grounds and from that banana peel, I'm sure. And that's okay. I'm just going to kind of turn it over just so that we don't get a crazy mold bloom. But actually, all of those things are signs of that good living bedding that we want for our worms to be able to hatch in. Or if you order worms, for them to thrive in. So this is great. I mean, the bedding, if I squeeze, see just a few drops coming out, so it's the perfect consistency. So I'm trying to remember where I put our banana. I'm thinking it has to be down here where this mold was. Not seeing it in this corner, maybe down here. Yes, this is where our banana is. So I'm going to put our cocoons close to that banana so that hopefully when they hatch, the worms will migrate over to that area. So I'm going to clear out a space here on top of this really nice damp cardboard that the worms love to climb in. I think it'll be good for hatching the cocoons. And I'm going to dump the contents of our cocoons into this bin. When I ship them, I do oftentimes put some paper towels that are dampened to keep the cocoons moist in transit. Again, something you can just add straight to your bin. So let's take a look and see what some of these cocoons look like. These are red wiggler cocoons, and we've got quite a few of them in here. This is about 1,000. I really packaged the cocoons well with this paper towel, but what the really cool idea that I believe Lilia Kogan showed me when I sent her some cocoons a while back is she flipped the burlap bag completely inside out. And I need to snip this in order to do that. But I'm going to snip this, and that allows it to completely open up, and then we can flip. I'll show you. There's more cocoons in here. This way none of the cocoons will be missed. You can just see it's just loaded with them. I'm just going to kind of let them all fall to the middle there. And I'm just going to lay this inside the bin as well, because since it's able to be composted, and in case there's any little cocoons hanging out in crevices, I think it's a really good thing to have. But I'm going to spread these cocoons out a little bit. Want them to stay evenly kind of moist all throughout. And then I'm going to lay the newspaper and paper towel pieces that I shipped with these worms. Where are these? These newspaper pieces, I'll probably just throw these in the corners. And I'm going to cover everything back up with some of this existing bedding. The first week when you have your worms or your cocoons, there's really no reason to feed the worms. Worms, I mean, you technically could, but since there's already a little bit of food in here, it's nice to let them get acclimated to their environment. And for the cocoons, we don't know how long it's going to take them to hatch. So adding more food could potentially make this bin a little bit sour or acidic. So it's best to really just wait until the cocoons start to hatch and things start to work better in the bin before you start putting tons and tons of food in the bin. That being said, these cocoons should start hatching within a week or two, but sometimes it can take up to a month or a month and a half for some cocoons of certain species to hatch. So if your cocoons have not hatched and it's been a few weeks, be patient with it. Make sure your moisture is good, and add some additional buffer if you'd like, but don't add any more food, just wait. And when you start to see wisps, the baby worms, hatching into the bin, that's when you would go ahead and start feeding the worms. But for now, we're going to leave it just like this, nothing super fancy. And hopefully, in the next week or two, we'll start seeing some wisps coming out of these red wiggler cocoons. I would expect that probably in about 2 weeks, we'll really start seeing some hatching, but it's possible it could happen this week as well. So I'm eager to see what happens with that. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more information, and then we will wrap it up for today and come back next week, hopefully to find ourselves some new babies. All right, guys, so I'm done working in the worm bin for today, but I wanted to wrap up with a little bit more information for you guys. If you're brand new to worms or you're brand new to cocoons or both, there's a few things to keep in mind when you're starting fresh. It's everyone's desire to be able to add a ton of food to your worm bin right away. And unfortunately, you just can't do that. Whether you're starting with worms or cocoons, you really need to take it slow, kind of read the signs of your bin before you start throwing in tons and tons of scraps. So if you get a pound of worms, for example, waiting for a week while they settle in with that little piece of banana or coffee grounds is more than enough. Worms can survive solely on bedding, so you don't have to feel a rush to add food. If you add too much food, there's definitely a higher chance of having problems than if you give them some time to settle in first. So I always say, wait a week or so when you start a bin brand new, let the worms settle in, and then you can go and add some more food, some more bedding, all of that type of thing. But it gives the ecosystem in the bin some time to kind of establish itself, and also gives the worms some time to acclimate to their new environment. So that's the first thing. If you have cocoons and you're starting brand new, you don't want to add food because there's already some food in the bin and worms aren't hatching yet. So we don't know how many worms are going to hatch how quickly. And if we add a whole bunch of food, we're going to end up with an acidic bin. We could attract pests, and we could end up with way more mold than we would like. A little bit of mold is fine, and people often ask, can moldy food be fed to my worms? And absolutely. The worms feed and thrive off of the decomposing matter. So moldy, stinky, all sorts of stuff is completely fine. But we just don't want to add it too early. Once you start seeing some babies hatching, then adding small amounts of food, and I'm just talking about small little pieces of peels and things like that until their numbers go up and they grow in size. You always want to err on the side of underfeeding and adding too much bedding. If you're really inclined, you want to add more of something to the bin, you can't control yourself. I've been there, believe me. Add more bedding, add some extra shredded cardboard, and just practice patience. Cocoons can take a while to hatch, and that's okay as well. We're trying to develop the best possible environment for the worms to hatch in, and sometimes it might take a little while to kind of reach that homeostasis, that equilibrium. So just be patient. You know, you can peek in on your worms, well, your cocoons, as much as you like. Some people say that peeking in on your worms disturbs them. I honestly don't think that it does. So you can peek, no problem, but just kind of hold yourself back from adding too much or doing too much too soon. Once that system gets to the perfect level, that's when you're going to start seeing the hatching, and that's when your bin will really take off and thrive. So next week, hopefully we will have some new cocoons that are hatching, and we'll be able to add a little something to eat. But if they don't hatch next week, we'll wait another week. But I think next week we'll talk about some, beginner mistakes to try to avoid making. But I did want to show you guys adding the cocoons today and kind of what I do, which is honestly pretty much nothing. Since we already had the bin set up, we just add them, put the lid back on, and just leave it be and kind of let Mother Nature do her thing. So let me know what you guys think. Drop your comments below. Any questions? If you've got cocoons for me, are they starting to hatch? What are your experiences? I would love to hear from you guys. And I'll be back next week for another episode, and we will hopefully start seeing some babies. So I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a great day.